Right, let's talk about luck. Some people have it and some people don't. And then there's Frane Selak, who somehow had both at the same time. Like, imagine you're playing a game of Russian roulette, except unknown to you every chamber has a bullet, but somehow you keep clicking and nothing happens. That's Frane. His life was just one ridiculous, completely unfair game of how much can one man survive before the universe gives up. And honestly, the universe had a bloody hard time of it. There's lucky, there's unlucky, and then there's Frane Selak. Like, if the Grim Reaper had a personal vendetta against him, but also really bad aim. His life was a series of near-death experiences so ridiculous that if you saw it in a film, you'd roll your eyes and call it unrealistic. But no, this was a real man just trying to live his life while narrowly dodging disaster like some kind of Croatian John Wick. Except instead of assassins, his enemy was reality itself. It all started in 1962 when Frane took a train through the freezing mountains of Croatia. Normal enough, right? Except that train somehow derailed and plunged straight into an icy river. Just imagine that moment. 1 minute you're minding your own business, maybe reading the paper, and the next you're underwater taking a plunge. 17 people drowned in that accident, but not Frane. He somehow swam to shore, walked it off, and carried on with his life like it was some minor inconvenience. That in itself is enough to tell the grandkids. But wait. A year later, he decided to take his chances with the skies. Bad idea. He boarded a plane in what can only be described as a cosmic joke. The bloody door blew off mid-flight. Now, I don't know about you, but if that happened to me, I wouldn't even have time to scream. I just accept my fate and hope for a quick exit. But Frane? This absolute madman was sucked out of the plane and managed to cannonball into a haystack. A literal haystack. Everyone else on the plane, tragically they didn't make it. 19 people perished. Frane, however, got up, dusted himself off, and probably thought, right, well, I'm going to be late again. At this point, you'd think he'd stay far away from moving vehicles as possible. Maybe take up a nice, safe hobby like knitting or gardening. But no, the man had places to be, and he wasn't about to let physics or probability stop him. Fast forward a few years and he's on a bus, because wheels are safe so far, right? Right? Well, the bus veers off the road and straight into a river, again. But, just like before, Frane managed to swim to safety, while 4 other passengers weren't as lucky. By now he must have been questioning if he was blessed or cursed, or both. You'd assume after 3 near-death experiences involving public transport, he'd finally wise up and become a hermit, or just walk everywhere at the very least, travel only via his own car. I'll let that one stew for a few seconds. Frane kept rolling the dice and the universe kept going. Let's see what happens if we throw this at him. In 1970, while driving his own car, probably feeling safer being the one behind the wheel and all, being extra careful on those dangerous journeys. Well, the fuel tank just exploded, as if the universe went, alright, fine, no more buses or trains, have this instead. But somehow, Frane managed to escape before the entire car turned into a fireball. He lost a few hairs, but otherwise, completely fine. Then, in 1973, he tried driving again. Big mistake. A malfunction in his car sent flames shooting out his air vents straight into his face. Most people would panic, but Frane, he knew the procedure by now. He calmly opened the door and threw himself out, just before the vehicle turned into a portable bonfire. At this point, he must have been genuinely concerned that he was some kind of immortal being, or wondering how he got on the wrong side of karma so badly. Years went by, and maybe he thought his cursed days were behind him. But no, the universe still had unfinished business. In 1995, he was walking down the street, probably thinking, at least walking can't kill me, when a flipping bus hit him, just straight up ran him over. But, in Frane Selak fashion, he survived with minor injuries. At this point, the man was more indestructible than the Nokia 3310. Maybe that's where Nokia got the inspiration from. And then, because of course there's an and then, In 1996, he was driving in the mountains when he had to swerve to avoid an oncoming truck. The car skidded off the road, crashed through the barrier, and plummeted straight towards a ravine. That should have been the final end of Frane Selak. He wasn't having that. He somehow managed to fling himself out of the car at the last second and grab onto a tree branch while his car exploded far below him. I mean, at this point, you've got to admire the man's commitment to survival. He could probably show Bear Grylls a thing or two. I can just picture Dev sitting in the passenger seat, looking so unimpressed and gauntless in the now empty driver's seat, accepting the plunge into the ravine below, whilst Frane clung to that tree like a man who refused to be bested. Now, here's where things get even weirder. You'd think after surviving all of this, he'd be living in constant fear, avoiding all risks, maybe wrapping himself up in bubble wrap just in case. But no, in 2003, at the age of 73, Frane won the lottery. Like actual millions. As if the universe finally went, alright, fair play, you win life, here you go. But that's not even the most unbelievable part. Despite having a fortune, Frane didn't suddenly go out and start living large. No, instead, a few years later, he decided to give most of his winnings away to family, friends, and even strangers. Maybe he figured money wasn't going to do him much good if he was destined to keep getting into life or death situations. Or maybe, after cheating death so many times, he just saw life differently. He kept enough to live comfortably. He did end up getting a hip operation and a shrine to the Virgin Mary, go figure. But, beyond that, he didn't see the need to hoard it. Imagine surviving all that chaos, winning millions, and then going, I don't really need this. Frane eventually settled down, lived a relatively quiet life, and passed away peacefully in 2016 at the age of 87. That's right, despite everything, he still made it to old age. If you wrote his life as a script, no one would believe it. Too unrealistic, too ridiculous, but it happened. A man who should have met his end about 7 different times somehow lived long enough to be the one with the last laugh. And honestly, after everything he went through, he deserved it. Anyway, that's the story of Frane Selak, living proof that the universe sometimes just doesn't know what it's doing. Let me know what you think. Was this man cursed, blessed, or just really, really lucky at being unlucky? And more importantly, would you ever get in a car, plane, or train with someone with his track record? I'll see you in the next one.